welcome to a TMC/TMCnet podcast. I'm your host, Rich Tehrani. Thanks for being here. On our program today, we have the CEO of SCB Global, Nabeel Mahmood. He's also the director of the Americas. And Nabeel, welcome. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Rich, on your show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Your second time in a short amount of months. I think it it feels like six to 8 weeks ago, somewhere around there where we talked last, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So for those people who might not have seen our last video interview, would you mind just giving us an overview of your company and what you guys do?
Certainly. So SCB Global has been a leading provider of multinational telecommunication and enterprise data solutions since 2004. We are a company headquartered out of United Kingdom. We have started to expand our presence in Americas and across the world, really. We've got offices pretty much in every continent. I think that's about right. Now, we are a company that's a little bit different than our competitors that's in the voice space. We talk more about workplace transformation. We talk about Communications 4.0 and enabling the workforce to be able to work remotely.
That's great. Now, you mentioned Communications 4.0, and not everyone necessarily knows what that is. Obviously, communications has evolved tremendously, not just during and after the pandemic, but I mean, it's been evolving, which is, I guess, why we're on 4.0. But what's your definition of that term?
Well, that's great. I mean, it's kind of like, we are the thought leaders in that space. That's where I want to put it. I don't think that actually it's been a buzzword that's been actually really adopted by the marketplace. So let's start by the definition of Communication 4.0. 1875 is the time Graham Bell introduced the first telephone. That's when they made the call around the block. Great, that's Communication 1.0. That's analog lines. Communication 2.0 is when things started becoming a little bit more digital. It was kind of like semi-revolutionary with ISDN, though it was still on the wire, but it was actually data carrying voice, right? It was integrated circuits. You can do voice and data off of the same cable. Now you can actually send fax. So that was Communication 2.0. The world that we have been living in for the last few years has been known as the next generation of communication. That's been extremely revolutionary. Basically voice over IP, and basically voice through data. But then it kind of sort of stopped in a lot of ways as well. Now, where our stance and definition of Communication 4.0 is that we define it as software-based communication, enabling the workplace transformation. It's no longer just about voice. You can do in Communication 4.0, you can integrate fax, you can integrate chat, you can integrate SMS, you can integrate global presence, you can integrate video, applications, PBX connector. It's basically a single pane of glass to help enable collaboration, bring the teams together, and enhancing the user experience. And it could be deployed across any platform.
Wow, it's very exciting. Now, how does SCB Global deploy this? How are you bringing this to your customers and the world?
So, great question. We are a strategic partner with Microsoft. We are a Microsoft Gold certified partner, so we are using and leveraging Microsoft Teams platform as our base, and all the enhancements are actually deployed within Microsoft Teams platform. And that would be, 5 core elements that I talked about briefly earlier: with call recording, fax, international features, contact center, UCaaS, and SMS. It's basically the way we are deploying is no one else is. So, you look at our competitive landscape, everybody is very much so siloed, even though say that they're the next generation. You have the user experience that's built across multiple application layers. What we're doing is bridging that and enhancing it and unifying it so the user stays within the core application. And in this scenario, it would be Microsoft Teams, and they work within that interface, right? So that basically helps resolve a lot of challenges that the companies face. For instance, you got a voice carrier or voice solution, you need an SME for that locally within your team. You've got somebody that's working on video, you need SME for that, and then there's integration and who runs it, who owns it, sort of thing. we are able to bridge all of that, bring it under one platform, and enhance the user experience and also the management of that experience.
So why are we at the forefront then of communications 4.0? And how do we know that this is like the beginning of this new or the fourth transition of communications?
So why are we at the forefront of it? I mean, this is just the beginning, right? I mean, 1875 to 1980, we didn't really do much. It was analog lines. And then over the last 30, 40 years, things have actually dramatically changed. And this is just the beginning. So who knows where it's going to take, but we are at the forefront of it because this is the definition of communication 5.0 and how things are going to happen as we move along. I don't know if we're going to all have Google glasses or Microsoft glasses, and that becomes a communication platform. It's about enhancing the experience of the user and making it simple for them to work across multiple applications and platforms.
And it seems to me that the timing for this is really good too, just because, it also fits in this paradigm shift from the user standpoint, where we used to go to an office for the most part. Most of us went to an office, and then we just worked at our desk, and we didn't, the real-time communications and collaboration was more of an asynchronous thing that we did. We'd have occasional talks. We'd get up and maybe we'd walk and talk to someone in another cube, or maybe we'd have a meeting, a live meeting, where we would schedule that meeting. And I think now, and this is part of what you're talking about, but if you think about it logically, we've gone from a world where that was the way of working to now where the real-time communications is actually a more central part of our day, because so many of us spend so much time on Zoom or Teams or whatever it is that we spend our time on. And so we kind of started looking at the world from communications out as opposed to communications being an adjunct to work. So really, communications has become the sort of the center of the future of work without us realizing it very, very quickly for so many of us. And now as we return to offices, especially if there's any kind of hybrid, this method of working is still going to be the same, whereby we're used to this real-time communications, even at our desks in the office, because not everyone is going to be in the office at the same time, or they may not be. And just out of habit and convenience, will be kind of communications first, and then everything else kind of will weave into that. And that's kind of what you were talking about, how there's this seamless interaction between the applications and the communications, and then just the workflow.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, somebody to oversimplify it for somebody that's not in the technical space is, we with communication 4.0, you were able to get a couple of extra hours in a day. So the 24-hour day becomes a 26-hour day now. You don't have to have the water cooler talks anymore. You don't have to wait to get answers as to what and where someone's availability is. You don't have to schedule a meeting just to schedule a meeting. It's more productive, right? So communication 4.0 is going to increase those efficiencies and give some of the time back that we actually lost in travel or lost in meetings just to have meetings, right? It's basically enhancing productivity and key performance indicators for associates.
So it's also part of digital transformation as well, I guess, for companies that are looking to transform. Depending on the business, this could be a big part of that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the digital transformation piece, the workplace transformation, this is, like we talked about earlier, I mean, this is just the beginning of what's to come next.
Fantastic. Now, how can people find out more about your company if they want to reach out?
Yeah, so you can visit us our website at scb-global.com. That's the best way to connect with us. Or you can send out an email to info or sales@scb-global.com. We are also on LinkedIn and Twitter and pretty much every social platform.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Rich.